Welcome back to the Built Local podcast. Today we have Bruce on. How you doing today, Bruce?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great. I appreciate you taking the time to hop on. For anybody who doesn't know about you or your pet service business, tell us a little bit about you and your background.
I have a business called Ascendwise, and really what we do there is we help service-based businesses, home services, marketing agencies. We work a lot with them. We help them be more profitable, more scalable, and just kind of have sustainable growth. Really help figure out what the business owner wants out of the business and build a roadmap, help them get there.
That kind of blossomed out of you having your own service-based businesses, right?
I had spent a lot of time before launching that in high growth service companies. I was not the owner at that point. We have Doozy Pet Waste Removal now. Myself and a friend started last year.
What kind of made you want to start the pet waste removal business? How'd you hear about it and how'd you get into it?
The consulting business. I have a client who lives in the Southeast who has been doing that for 6 or 7 years. He bought the business, and it's completely unrelated to what he was, his other business that I help him with.
Yeah.
And just through casual conversation at the end of our monthly meetings, he'd bring it up. I'd ask him how it's going. And it just sounded like an interesting space to, one, there wasn't a lot of competition in it. Love the recurring revenue model. Prior to starting my own company, I came out of mostly recurring revenue model professional service agencies. It's great to have that recurring revenue stream. And also just kind of work with a lot of home service companies, and thought it was a simple business model to get into and just start. I know a lot about home services, but I wanted to have a reason to learn, like Review Harvest, right? Like your software. I know what it does. I understand the importance of reviews, but I've never really had a need to be a user of the software, right?
Yeah.
So just to start getting down that level of, okay, now I use the tools and I run into the exact same problems that our customers run into on the coaching side. I guess I'd like a lot of entrepreneurs just jump into things, and it sounds fun. Kind of have a mission component of it too. We train, so our team kind of goes through similar education and I would say training that my Ascendwise consulting clients go through. So they get a lot of benefit on, here's how you run a business. Here's how marketing works. Here's how you work with people. Here's how you lead and build a team. We're very transparent with how we run it. They sit in our meetings. They see our numbers. I mean, we ask them for feedback. So the mission side of that business is to really help develop people who may want to be an entrepreneur themselves and maybe give them a little bit of a head start, right?
I can totally resonate with just diving into other things, because I've been very close to starting my own home service business multiple times, because I just want to, like you said, be the end user. I want to experience what the problems that our customers face the way they experience them, so that we can serve them better on that side. It sounds like you're doing the same thing. And so when it comes to the Ascendwise business, what are some the most common things that you see in these service-based businesses where they have blind spots?
So, typically when we're coming into the business, they're usually struggling, right? We're not going into high performing companies. The owner's kind of at that point where they're like, I've now recognized what I don't know. It's usually first time business owners. So it's the whole, I've never done this before. Yesterday's company was the biggest company they've ever opened and grow, but it's they're always kind of that, today's a new day. It's the biggest company I've ever had, right? And tomorrow's going to be the same thing. We can see around the corners that they can't see. I would say the biggest problem we see initially is gross profit. So just jumping into the number side, it's a lot of times if somebody is sitting, say 5% net profit, 10%, usually we come in and find broken process on their business operations, right? So just think, let's stick with pet waste removal. Maybe they have 5 trucks, or it could be a lawn care company with 5 crews, whatever it may be, but maybe they send people too far out, right? Their routes aren't optimized. They're bad warranty work, too much warranty work, right? Obviously there's a whole laundry list of what could cause that. Pricing's bad, right? A lot of people don't understand just the basic components of pricing. They look around and see what their competitors are doing, pick a number and they go with that. Some revenue's better than no revenue. It sounds good, but it can bite you as you start to grow or keep you from growing. So I would say the biggest problem we typically see is on the gross profit side. And then second to that, it would be definitely leadership. Back to, hey, I've never had a business like this. A lot of times they've never really led a team, or maybe they were a service manager at, say, it's plumbing company, right? So they had a handful of guys under them, and they don't really know how to develop a team, empower them, hold them accountable, just get everybody kind of, to use some of the business greats, just right seat, right person, right seat, get everybody
Yeah.
rowing in the same direction. That's definitely the second biggest issue we see.
Let's stick with this example here just to make it tactical. Let's like walk through a hypothetical. So say you walk into, my pet service business, say I have about 180, 200 recurring customers. We're doing about 200,000 a year top line. If you started working with me, what would the first couple weeks look like? What are you walking through with these businesses to help them out and help them basically right the ship in the correct direction? Real quick, if you're a local business owner and you want to start getting customers from Google, you know how important Google reviews are. Every week, I talk to business owners just like you across hundreds of industries who know reviews matter, but never seem to have the time or the system in place to actually get them. That's exactly why I've spent the last 2 years building Review Harvest. We built it with a non-tech savvy business owner in mind, so anybody can set it up in minutes and start getting reviews today. It automates the process of getting real reviews from your customers, responding to those reviews, and repurposing them across your website and across your social media platforms. It's a set it and forget it software. You can get it all set up in about 10 minutes and you never have to worry about reviews again. We can integrate into the tools you're already using so you don't have to change a thing. You don't have to train your team on how to request reviews. You don't have to request them manually. You get customers, we get your reviews. It's simple as that. And the first play in our playbook is what we call a review reactivation. You probably have hundreds or thousands of previous customers who loved your service but never left your review. So a lot of times our users can double or even triple their reviews just in the first couple months of working with us when we do that review reactivation.
We're big believers in just being data centered. Just with my background being a CFO in service companies, the benefit I had when I was a CFO is I was at small startup companies, right? The bigger the company you get, you kind of get put into a box and say, just focus on this one thing. That was never the case for me. I was kind of serving in a role where I was CFO, COO, involved in marketing, sales, just pretty much across the entire board. When we come in, we have a scoreboard that we take really basic data, right? See this a lot. People will drown themselves in data trying to improve things, but you just have to look at the right data. So we take their P&L, their balance sheet, and some basic marketing information, drop that into our scoreboard, just to get a lay of the land of, okay, what's happening, right? What do the leads look like? What's their conversion rate? How long do they retain customers? What's their average invoice value or average ticket? Gross profit? What are we spending on admin, payroll, marketing, just general overhead? What's cash flow look like? So we kind of come in, figure that out. And from there, we're able to sniff out the major issues pretty quickly, right? The most common thing I hear, I need more leads, right? I don't have enough leads. And the majority of the time, that's not their biggest problem. It's not leads. It can show them the data and say, that's actually not your biggest problem. You don't retain customers. Or maybe they're not a recurring model. Say it's power washing, right? It could be, hey, we don't have enough customers. Come back and buy again. It could be a pricing thing. Average ticket's too low, or whatever it is, right? So there's kind of 5 key drivers in revenue. 9 times out of 10, people always think it's the first one, which is your leads. Second one's conversion rate. That's another big one, right? Well, you have enough leads, you just don't convert well. We come in, understand that, and then we can start saying, okay, we got a conversion rate problem or we have a retention problem. That's where we can lean into our background and our experience to say, okay, let's start kind of triaging why we have that issue.
I feel like I probably have one of these issues with profit, or I don't have a high enough customer lifetime value or whatever. If you had to put you on the spot here and you're like, let's say like 5 metrics, what are the 5 metrics that a business owner should go pull from their business right now to kind of get a lay of the land to figure out where they should dive deeper and focus their attention on?
So I love that you went with 5 because we have 5 revenue drivers.
Okay, I heard you say 5 earlier, so I was like, maybe this will be easier if I say 5.
All right, we'll do 5, and then there's a really important 6th one, which we've already mentioned. So the 5 that we look at is new leads, and this is from new prospects, and it's important that it's not just from everybody. And there's a couple of reasons why. How many new leads, right? New prospect leads or estimates, whatever we want to call it, whatever we want to set as, some people it's a lead, sometimes it's an estimate, it could be a quote, whatever we call it, but it's functionally it's all the same. The second one would be conversion rate of those leads, right? So at 100 leads, customers converted, so it's 50%, right? Number 3 is retention rate. If you're a recurring model, it's what's your percent retained from the prior month. If you're not a recurring model, say you're power washing, again, not a recurring business model, it's what is the percentage of clients that have come back from prior year, right?
Okay.
So we kind of treat it differently based on the business model. The 4th one would be purchase frequency. So If you're recurring, that really doesn't matter because you're just going
Mhm.
to pet waste removal, right? $20 once a month. We don't care about
Yep.
purchase frequency. We care about
Yep.
retention. If you are power washing or maybe HVAC maintenance, we do care about purchase frequency because maybe ideally, if you have your HVAC system maintained twice a year, perfect world, we should see a 2.0 for your purchase frequency, right? That gets a little complex. It's one of those things we usually tell the business owner, don't worry about that. We'll put it in our tools. We'll analyze and kind of tell you what we see. The next one would be your average invoice value, average ticket, whatever you want to call it. We're able to back into that information with that data that I mentioned earlier, the P&L, the balance sheet, and effectively your leads list. You think about the P&L for a second, the P&L starts at revenue. The problem is revenue is an outcome. We don't know how
Yeah.
we got there.
Yeah.
We have some guesses, could be right, could be wrong. Those 5 numbers explain to us exactly how we got to the revenue for that month, so that now we want to change revenue. Say we're at 100,000, we want to get to 120, 6 months. Those 5 drivers are how you do it, no matter what business you are, which is the great thing. You could be marketing agency, waste removal, you could be a law firm, right? It doesn't matter. The numbers, those drivers are all levers. The levers may be a different size depending on what industry you're in. Every business has those 5 levers. So that's it, right? You start with those 5. But as I mentioned, gross profit is kind of the biggest issue that we see with service companies. That's got to be number 6, right? So
Yeah.
once you understand, well, here's my revenue map. Here's how I put my hands on something, pull it, and create more revenue. Now we have to worry about gross profit because, again, it's like revenues, it doesn't pay bills, gross profit does.
For sure. So if you're listening, it's like if you can pull those numbers, you can figure out the leads, the conversion rate, your average ticket, retention, all that sort of stuff. Then you can kind of get an idea. If you get those 5 numbers right, you should be on the right track, right? But then the P&L and all the other stuff, balance sheet, will show you kind of where you're at currently. Is that kind of right?
Yeah, exactly. We use those drivers to really build that roadmap. One, to figure out what's not working in the business, what is working well, and then project those out, set targets for them. So that's what we do. Figure out where they're at, what's the trends on them look like. Let's set a target. You want to go from 100 to 120, or maybe we want to double in revenue. Well, there's 5 levers we have. Where realistically can we do it? Where are we optimized? Where are we not? And then let's go build a strategic plan to impact leads or conversion rate or whatever it is.
Let's say that you have somebody, a service-based business, struggling with gross profit, revenues for vanity, profits for sanity, and they're like just lacking on the sanity side, right? Where are the first couple places that you're looking to influence that number in the right direction and start generating more profit for these service-based businesses?
So in the gross profit, depends on the industry a little bit. Let's stick with home services, right? We're going to look at everything from pricing. It sounds like an easy button because anybody can say, well, raise your price. But we want to understand, well, is your pricing, I mean, just conceptually, if you think about it, when you set your pricing, there's 4 components that it needs to basically cover. You got to cover your direct cost. So that could be a technician. It could be, if you're an HVAC company, the furnace you're installing, right? So it's got to cover your direct cost. It has to cover your operating expenses. It has to cover fixed assets. And that's where a lot of people just kind of forget to include depreciation, because getting a little in the weeds on accounting, but depreciation is kind of a non-cash expense, right? It's kind of fictional to people. Simply, if you buy a $50,000 truck and you're going to get 5 years out of it, maybe it's worth $20,000 when it's done. You effectively have to pay for $30,000 over that period, right? It cost you 30 grand to use that truck for 5 years. So you have to recoup that in your pricing, right? Because there's nowhere else to recoup it. And a lot of people kind of leave that out, which is where that starts showing up, because we see this a lot, is somebody's running at 5, 6, 7% net profit, and that number barely covers the truck payments of their fleet, whether it's, the 5 service vans, the lawn care trucks, whatever it is, right? And it's usually because they just don't account for all of their costs in the business. But the 4th one, most importantly, is profit. Direct cost, overhead, operating expenses, your fixed assets, and your profit. So every time you charge a customer, that's where your revenue goes. We dig into the pricing, and then we're getting into training, right? It could be the team isn't trained well. They take longer on job. They break stuff. We incur more costs on materials. We're sending people too far away. I mentioned that earlier. A fun exercise that we like to do, because the answers here can be so different depending on what the business is we do kind of a reverse brainstorming, and that we didn't come up with this concept, but tell them, okay, let's say we go in somewhere, it's heating and air or plumbing, and they're at 30%, 25% gross profit. Too low, can't survive, right? Just
Yeah.
not survivable. We'll go in and say, okay, maybe the 6-month goal is to get that up by 10%. What are all the ways that we can make gross profit worse? A lot of us, it's easy to go pick apart something, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
well, I could drive 3 hours away for a job.
Yep.
I could lower my pricing. It's funny. It's kind of a fun exercise to go through, and you're able to just rattle off like, okay, I just came up with 30 ways I could make gross profit worse, right? And then we kind of group them into themes, and then we figure out where the needs are based on that. So we say, okay, is that a problem right now? No, we're not sending people 3 hours away. Our routes are pretty efficient. We have our service area tight. That's okay, right? What that does is it exposes the general areas where we can go start putting a plan together. That's a great one. People always love to do it. You just come up with a huge list of ways to make it worse.
Yeah. And then flip them. Aren't Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett really big on like inverse thinking? I think they talk about that all the time. Think about all the ways you could ruin your business and then just do the opposite of those. But just how could I ruin this business? I got a million ways I could ruin this business. So that's really cool. And I think for the audience too, let's separate out gross profit. So when you're talking about gross profit, you're talking about you went and charged $1,000 for a job and it cost you $700. Is that correct on gross profit? And you get $300 as your gross profit, right?
Yeah. And when you get into small business accounting, it's everybody does it a little bit different. I personally believe that you should include your labor. So power washing, you send a tech out, right? There's 1 or 2 guys on the truck. Their time to go do that, say it's a 3-hour job. The cost of labor for that 3 hours is a direct labor cost, which goes into cost of goods, right? So gross profits is revenue minus your direct cost. There's your gross profit. We want to include labor in that. And then you want to include things like your direct materials. So you spend about 7 or 8% of your revenue on supplies. So if you're that power washing company, you get, the bleach, whatever other chemicals, right? Or pet waste removal could be the bags that they put the collection bin. So the gross profit's kind of that. What is left after we charge a customer, back out the labor, back out the direct supplies that we used on that job.
Do you have a story of maybe a company that you worked with and kind of where they're at when y'all started working with you, and then the things that y'all implemented, and then what happened after they'd implemented the things, and kind of walk us through each step and what happened and what the result was?
There's a heating and air and plumbing company that go with this one because we started probably about 2 years ago. But over that time, roughly 2 years ago to now, there's been about a 20 to 22% swing in their net profit.
Wow, that's huge.
Meaning if it was 0, it's now 22, right? They were actually below. So they were losing. They weren't profitable. It was a gross profit issue, right? So we saw that, came in right away. We actually used that reverse brainstorming concept just because we needed to find some big wins fast. They had that. So like what we found was they were driving too far. They were going too far away from their service area to do a job. They were sending the wrong tech concept now in place, right tech, right job, right? So they were sending maybe the wrong tech to a job, which meant they either had to go back, they went and did the job and maybe wasn't done right. So now you have an upset customer, or you incurred more expense, like maybe they broke something or broke a tool because they don't use it as much. But so in that case, you're getting upset customers, more expense, twice the trips out there, so eating into your revenue capacity at that point. Pricing was off. There wasn't a good process to manage cost and just monitor, hey, what's our costs look like? Are they rising? And if they're rising, we need to recoup it in our pricing. There were several things we did to help them figure out where pricing should be. All this is done like through better process and systems, right? Just to keep it fixed moving forward. So probably the big ones in gross profit. And then we started kind of looking at there was a management team in place and just started to work with them to get them to be more of a leader instead of just managing people doing tasks, right? Thinking more strategically, thinking about how they improve what's beneath them. And that's one of the first, at a small business level, that's one of the things I look at is that person sitting above the team, is the team getting better because of them? Because if they're not, they're kind of just like a task manager at that point. If they're improving the team, that's where they're starting to lead. People are getting better. Just the function of the team is getting better. What that does is that shows up in profitability, because the better your team is, the less people you need, right? Or the less mistakes that are happening. You're just more efficient as a business. So there's a lot of work in gross profit, probably a dozen different areas, tackling leadership, making sure we're hiring the right people, a lot of stuff like that. Generally what we end up doing, right? We're coming in helping solve profit issues on gross profit. making sure that there's a good culture is good. They actually worked with a separate company that got really in depth with them to come in and really define the fit, the culture fit of people, which was helpful because we're a big believer in that. You got to find the right people for the company. We tell people when you're hiring, make sure they fit the company, meaning like they're on board with the mission and values, they're good at the job, and they'll like the job, right? That's a good place to start. And then it's also, I mean, we're there. I had somebody put it this way recently that we help them deal with, said, you help me deal with the messy things that put businesses out of business. We can design systems and process all we want. Like you're a business owner. It's the whole, everybody's got a plan until they step into the ring, right? As we know, small businesses, it's part of what makes it fun and also scary and frustrating at times. That's big for us. Like we really love to be there for the business owner for that. There's not a lot that we haven't been through. We've been at 0 to 60 million, in service companies, been through a dozen mergers and acquisitions, been through recession and, great economies. There's really not much we haven't run across. So when we're not fixing a process or system or okay, look, what are the goals for the business? How do we get there? It's hey, this just happened. How do I deal with that?
Well, knowing all from AscendWise, what has it been like starting your pet waste removal business, with all this knowledge kind of from day one? What has growth been like for y'all with Doozy?
We're happy with it. We think it's been pretty good. We reached 6 figures in about 6 months or so. And we have a killer team. I mean, they are awesome. We are mission driven. We're very picky about who we bring on the team. We just have a great group of guys right now. And, this just it comes from the experience, right? Like know kind of how to look for the right people, right? When you bring somebody on who buys into your mission, aligns with you on the values. There's something kind of called commander's intent, and it's, try to put it simply, I mean, if they forget their process, right? They wake up one day and they're like, I don't remember how to do the parts of my job, but we've articulated to them what winning looks like for us as a team, right? When they go out every day, we call it the Doozy promise. And it's kind of the 4 points that we commit to our customers. So we tell them like, okay, you've already been filtered through mission and values fit. We believe you will make decisions in the similar fashion that we would. So when you go out to that customer site, you could totally forget the process that we use. And the way we kind of measure our scalability is, okay, could we double or triple, quadruple in size tomorrow? And with exception of having to hire people, does it cause an issue in the business? It's never perfect. It's back to the whole, like, you have a plan to get in the ring, right? And you get punched in the mouth, and then now what? We've been able to kind of just set the foundations. I kind of think of it as like building a house, right? Pour the concrete, get it set properly, and have a stable foundation. Everything else gets easier after that. Knowing our mission and values, right? How are we going to hire people? What are we going to hold them accountable to? How do we train them, right? How do we really get them bought in on, you're not just an employee getting a paycheck, you are this company. Think of it as when you go out for the day, you and your truck, your own business. Just empowering people. I mean, that goes far, when people feel like they matter, because they do here at Doozy, run through walls for you.
Sure. No, I love it. And I think on the Doozy side, y'all got started pretty early with Review Harvest. I think y'all had like 1 review and you got started with us. What has your experience been like with Review Harvest so far?
Yeah, it's been great. I mean, this year we kind of had a team kickoff meeting back in late January, I believe. And we were sitting at 29 reviews and we really wanted it to hit 30 for the meeting. We messaged a couple people on our own, just, hey, would you mind leaving us a review? Well, we've talked to more frequently than others. And we were just really trying to get it to say 30 by the, as we wanted to hit some highlights for the company. We didn't get it done, but here in the last, pretty much 60 days, I mean, we've gone up to 70 something. Nice to see that, just get those emails. They come in batches, right? Because they typically kind of follow the
customer,
new customer. Yeah, when we acquire customers. So
awesome, Bruce. Well, we're going to have all your links down below in the description to Doozy if people are in the area, and also to AscendWise. But, what's the best way for somebody to get in touch with you and take the next step with AscendWise?
I'm horrible with social media. I'll admit that. I'm trying to get better. They have a website, ascendwise.io. We are on Facebook. I trying to be a little bit more present on Facebook and Instagram. We have pages there and we do monitor them. So somebody could shoot us a message there. We do see it. We're just not as good with getting content out there as we probably should be.
All good. Well, we got some content today.
Yeah, there we go. This will be great.
Well, we'll have all your stuff linked down below, Bruce. We really appreciate you hopping on, and have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Clay. Enjoyed it.
Yes, sir. See you, Bruce.